Hey all, Mark Vega, Run Long After 60. If this is the first time you're here, whoo-wee, I'm glad you found us. If it's not, well, you know how this works. Every episode of the Run Long After 60 podcast starts with me out on a run, moving, not in the studio or behind a desk. All right, today's guest is the legend, Ann Trason, Ann-Trason. I'm spelling it out because if you don't know who she is, stop, Google her right now. Watch some videos, read everything you can, take your time. Why? Because we're not going to cover any of that in this interview. No races, no 14 Western states victories, no 20 world records. Today, we're going somewhere very different. Ann is rarely on camera. And she shows up with smiles, with stories, and a laugh that makes you smile every single time you hear it. Every interview I've done up to this point in time has led me here, to her. She is always learning, always trying, as she puts it, to better herself. At 65, with rheumatoid arthritis, with a walker. Today, we cover what it means to show up in a completely different way, how she has tackled some very hard things, including being diagnosed with RA and choosing to keep going anyway. What in the world inspired her to set her sights on one of the highest peaks in the Western Hemisphere with just a couple of trekking poles? We talk about some of the greatest names in the sport and why their stories deserve to be told before they're lost. She did say something that stopped me in my tracks. She says, Mark, keep telling their stories because they deserve to be told. So many people over 60, they participated for years, but they're not always on the podium. She said, Mark, talk to them. They're everywhere. I can connect you with them. And I was just flooded with gratitude because that's why I started this. And she asked me, why? And I told her she is 100% on board and agrees. Talk to them all, Mark. Capture their stories. Ann believes in patience and acceptance and in living in the now moment. And when you put all that together, you get grace. She emerged after several years of being off social media. And we caught her at across the years at the end of 2025. She was going to do a 50K and get an ultra under her belt again. But then she decided to go 112 miles after all, because in the middle of it, she was like, I think I'm going to get a buckle. So I remember watching some of that coverage and those little snippets, and I was thinking, 112 miles? I was afraid the wheels were going to come off. Not Ann's wheels, her walker. If this episode moves you, please subscribe, like the content, especially on YouTube. It's the single best way, easiest way for us to grow this channel and tell more stories like this. I mean, come on. One of the greatest ultra runners of all time just told me, Mark, you're on a mission. Whew. I believe her. All right, you ready? I'm ready. It's time. It's time for the one and only Ann Trason. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Run Long After 60 podcast. I'm Mark Vega, And I am grateful to have a guest with me today who needs no introduction, so I'll barely give her one. This is Ann Trason. Ann, so glad you're here. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. I mean it.
Really good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
It took us a minute to get us going, but we
Yeah,
got it, man.
well,
We're going now. All right. I'm not going to.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to list. I'm not going to list your accomplishments right now. People listening already know them. What they don't know is how you're doing right now. So let's start there. Who are you at 65 years old?
Well, I'm a woman who has a chronic disease, which is rheumatoid arthritis. It's kind of a complicated, and it's more probably a syndrome than a disease. I mean, everyone gets it a little differently, but the essence of it is my body is attacking itself, like the synovial membranes in my small joints, especially. There's a lot inflammation throughout my body generally, but that's what's happening. You usually have cells in your body that, can destroy unself because that's how we protect ourselves from a lot of stuff. I'm just being very general here, okay? I don't want to some sort of professor dialogue here. But anyway, what's happening here is my body is saying, no, that's not self, and I'm going to destroy you. And so what the implications have been, other than just a lot of pain and fatigue, but my hands get a little deformed, and my feet and my other joints are just kind of always a little swollen feeling. But I mean, it's the way things go, it's not that bad. But anyway, what I'm trying to do at 65 is prove that it's not the end of my life. Because when I got diagnosed when I was like 57 or whatever, that's what I thought. I thought, oh my goodness, that's not good news. And it took me a
What
while.
did you know about it at 57?
Well, I have had a somewhat of a science background. I went to UC Berkeley and stuff, but and I got a degree in the sciences, but I knew it was, I basically knew that it was sowing self. I didn't know, I hadn't read up on, what kind of medications you would take, and that some medications would only work for so long and you'd have to keep changing them. I did know that it was not something that someone who liked to run would want. And yeah, it was kind of eye-opening. I woke up one day and I couldn't move. I just couldn't move. It was like, what's going on? I was in so much pain. And then it took about a year to get finally diagnosed. But you're just going in. I mean, you've had strokes. I mean, it's like, what caused it? What can you do to prevent it? But with RA, all I'm doing is stop slowing the progression. That's basically what's happening. That's the only thing they can do for it. So it's kind of a different way of looking at life.
So that's what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay. So
in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing.
Wait. Yeah. Thank you. That was the question. You said, and you've said emphatically that you live in the now moment. And after describing what RA is, now I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But where did that come from? Living in the now moment. Has it always been what you've done, or did you have to learn to do that at some point?
Oh, it's all ultrarunning. Yeah. I mean, when I started, I mean, running at 50 was one thing. But when I started trying to do hundreds and I failed the first two times, one of the things that I realized was I was getting distracted too much. I wasn't really thinking. And that's kind of what I also learned was that's kind of my happy place, which is kind of weird. But that's where I just feel kind of the most at home, the most calm. I can think better. Um, and that's keeps me from maybe getting depressed of what in the past you can't do, and wishing you could do things in the future that you're not sure you can do or will be impossible, like running ever again. I can't think that. So just staying in the now moment, figuring out what I'm going to do day to day or moment by moment, tree to tree. That's basically my life right now.
After two 100s that you couldn't get through, um, were you at a place of pain or some weird thinking thought that the next time you did it, did something get particularly harder? And then in that moment you said, just one step in front of the other? Like, was there a moment
No,
when,
no,
oh yeah, I
absolutely
got to
not.
stay
I
here
made,
now?
uh, I wish it
Okay.
was. I made so many mistakes in my first 2 years. I mean, I overtrained in the first year because there was no information. So there were these guys, Jim Pellin, all these legends of the sport that people probably have forgotten about, sadly, but just these awesome runners. I mean, come on. And they were running 200 miles a week. I was like, oh my God, about my body fell apart. So that race was overtraining. And then the second race was just everything you could possibly do wrong: electrolytes, no food, throwing up, hyperventilating about the situation, not being really now, not taking care of myself. It was embarrassing. So I wrote down everything after the first two failures. I wrote everything down in a book. I've thrown it out recently. I shouldn't have, but I wrote down everything I wanted to do differently, what I learned, and even stuff that I did right, but mostly things I'd never do again or what I would do differently. And started really thinking about, did I really, really want to be an ultra runner? Or did I just want to run marathons or less or not run at all? It was kind of a crossroads.
Was other people anybody else you knew at that time, were they doing the same thing, like looking at a journal trying to figure things out? Did you have relationships with people like that, or was that not a thing?
We didn't talk about, I mean, we were the people. Maybe not. I mean, one thing that happened was the person I was with, because when I overtrained, he got me one, I think it was a gym fix. I don't know. It was this red, like, binder thing. And it was just because we were talking before Strava and all this nonsense, you know what I mean? Like, but I didn't have just a notebook. He got me one of those yearly training log things. It was red, and I got one every year. And I started writing it down. So if I was tired, he would say, have you looked at your log? And I'm like, yeah, I ran 214 miles. He go, well, what do you think? I'm like, okay. But that helped a lot. But also, I don't know, it was just the way I dealt with things. It was no rhyme or reason. Most of my friends that I was closest with were runners, and that helped a lot. Just that, we had the love of the trail, the love of the adventure, going up in the Sierras, exploring. But anyway, that's the past. And that was a long
You were
time
writing the
ago.
rules.
Oh, the rules
Well,
were
that's
written
what
long before
you
I
were
did.
writing.
No, I
Okay. So
was
even at
just,
that time,
well, there were so many people before me, people who, I mean, what would it be like to be in the early 70s or mid 70s and be a woman and say, yeah, I'm going to go run 100 miles? I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, I'd never heard of Western
right?
States till 1985, and when I did, I swore I would never do it. My mother had heard of it. She was a professor or instructor, really, at a community college, and she had a student named Bobby Lee. He became a podiatrist, and he had run the race. And when I ran American Forever 50, and I called her afterwards, maybe this gives you some idea of the kind of person I was. Like, I'll never, an upbringing I had. I'll never do. They're talking about this 100-mile race, Mom. She goes, oh no, you heard of Western States. I'm like, what do you mean, Mom? You've heard of Western States? Yeah, Bobby Lee did it. And I'm like, yeah, what is Bobby Lee? I was like, she says, I said, why didn't you tell me about it? She's like, because it sounds like something you'd want to do. And I don't think it sounds good for you. I mean, it's wonderful that your mother knows you that well. Better than you do. Crazy.
and it,
It's in my blood, I
she
think.
also knew it was a fait accompli. She knew that eventually you'd hear about it and you were going to do it anyway. So the fact that she was the source, oh well, what. Do
So
you carry to this moment though, when you describe RA and the pain and what you have to go through, that living in the moment is what you have to do right now,
I
right?
don't think
You
about it
have
as
to do
pain
that to
as
manage the pain.
well, I don't even look at it that way. I mean, it's living in the moment doesn't have to mean you have to dwell on something. You just have to have a lot of acceptance. I mean, one of the two great things I've learned with RA, I mean, everything hopefully teaches you something, or I'd like to try anyway, is patience and acceptance.
Sure.
I mean, and then, I mean, part of acceptance is saying, at this moment, this is the best you'll probably be in a lot of ways, but maybe not. I mean, there's still training to be done and things I can do, but stopping the progression is a real thing. It's not some made up farce, it's reality. And I do take a biologic that suppresses the immune response, but that also means there's a risk of certain cancers. So, you know, the pluses and minuses with everything. It's a decision I've had to make.
Did you have a relationship with? Hmm, did you use the word pain or think about pain for years and years? Like pain was just something you had to deal with, or it sounds like at this moment you're not, you don't dwell on any of it. So you might not be more than noticed for a moment that it's painful. But you described for me with RA, like there's spinal fractures. You're now using a walker. There's all kinds of things that your body has gone through in
Yeah,
the
but the
last
walker is just a
number of
tool.
years.
Yeah, the body's like a gym equipment thing, a tool to get me where I want to go. I mean, I need stability, and with stability, a walker helps. But my main focus is to use walking poles and be able to lie on the ground and get up with walking poles. I can do that and go up and down a little bit of a trail, and that's all I need, which seems like all, but that's going to be huge. And that's all my focus is going to be on basically for the next 6 months. I mean, there's a lot moving parts, of course, but um, that's where I'm at. And I never liked pain, real pain. Like, I don't want to take a hammer to my thumb. I mean, people are like, is it painful? It's like not like having your leg cut off. There's a little discomfort, and there's enough. I could get to a certain place, but I just got to a place and I backed off. Most times there's only one race where I kind of went into what maybe is a pain cave, what people talk about, which I think is very intriguing. I mean, here we're recording, and Courtney DeWalter's like kicking butt at Hard Rock. But this whole pain cave, I find that really fascinating because I think the mind is a lot stronger and has more of an effect on a lot of performances, not just in ultras, than we give it credit. It's pretty powerful. But I didn't want to cross into that, like, I mean, I kind of came from a little bit of a background from the Tevis Cup, which is a horse ride. And at the next day, they always had the top 10 kind of parade out, or, trot out, I guess they would say. I'm not a horse person, so bear with me. But they give the best condition. It's called the Hagenberg Cup or Hagenberger Cup. I'm sorry for butchering it. But the principle is the same. That one is, people look up to that more than winning the race. And I think that to me, there was always a little bit of that. I really wanted to be able to take care of myself. I thought that was part of the journey, which probably it isn't. But that's where my headset was. And maybe that'll help me in what I want to do later in life. That kind of philosophy, I think, is going to help me better than, going and digging so deep that sometimes you're not sure you can get back out. But you never know. I mean, that just works for Ann Trason. Who knows? It's not going to work for anyone else. We're all individuals.
True. True. And you are aware of the Tevis Cup a long, long, long time ago. Tevis Cup, the precursor, the immediate precursor or inspiration for Western states, the actual physical person, human run, not just a horse run. Um, so, but that adjustment to being tough about it and making your mind do the work. Clearly, when you do run all the races you run and you've come in first and all the great competitive elements you've put together and strung for years and years and years, as we speak to you today at 65, do you have an understanding or recollection that when you were flying down those hills, when you were running at the top of your game, did you have a relationship with anything like the pain cave at all? Or was mind over matter something you didn't think about at that time?
Well, I was more taking care of myself, to be quite honest. But, um, for me, what got me, people are always asking, like, what inspired you, whatever. It was totally community, 100%. in a lot of, well, maybe not 100%, maybe 80% community. I mean, there was 10% probably this and 10% that, I mean, oh, probably a little bit of ego that I don't want to accept. But really it was community.
That's the flash and pizzazz, though, Ann. You can't give up the ego without that. That'd be boring. But what do you mean 80% community? What does that mean, community to you? That's a
Well, all
big
my
number,
friends were running.
80%. What does
They
it
were
mean?
all running and we were all just, we loved the trail. We came up on the weekends, we camped. I mean, it was like one big family that, I mean, it wasn't like a cult or anything, but it just had a group of friends I ran on Wednesdays, and they're still my best friends for life. I mean, we were just exploring something new to us. Well, some people, when I was, they had already been running for quite a few years when I joined this group, but yeah, there was just a sense when you came up here, training on the course or running around the Bay Area, because there were so few runners. If you saw someone, it was going to be like, oh no, we're going to talk for half an hour. Where's my training run going? Well, there'll be enough light if I talk to this person. Do I have a flashlight? You know how many
Right.
times that happened to me? I was notorious for doing that. But yeah, that was what inspired me to keep trying.
Talking too long. So what was notorious? Talking too long. So you need to use a flashlight because the
To
conversation
finish a
happened so
run,
long.
to finish my runs. Don't back down. I'm still going to get in that run. I started coming up training on in the middle of the week up here at Western State, so there wouldn't be so many people. It's very social to me. I'm really pretty much a hermit, but being out on the trails and just how I feel in nature and even on the road, just moving, and sharing that love of something with a group of people, that's special. Not a lot of people, I don't get to experience it, not to the depth that I have felt anyway. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. That's just how I feel.
But you
Let's just say I'm
disappeared for
grateful. I'm so
with
grateful for all the people in my life.
yeah. There was a lot of grief and with your father passing in 2019. It was horrific and horrible, and you went through a period of, I guess, a retreat, and then you emerged not too long ago. And I think your emergence back onto the scene, at least with the benefit and boost, or if we can call it that, let's call it that for now. Why not? The benefit and boost of social media. When we got to see you, and I have the Ann Trason images in my head, but they're all races, right? And flying down the hill, and like that doesn't even seem real. And how it looks like it's 100 years ago. How could she be dressed like that, moving so fast 100 years ago? Who is this person? And you emerge it across the years, from my little perspective, and with a cart, with a walker, but you didn't just show up. And so I'll talk about this one race. I guess you didn't just show up. Ann Trason covers 112 miles. That's a return. Did you see it like that?
Well, no, I just went there just to connect with some people. And honestly, I hadn't walked. I did kind of hibernate for 6 years. I kind of needed a reset button of some sort. But yeah, so I thought, well, last time I did across the years, I got to 200 miles and I was just not having it. So I left. That was in 4 days. So but I hadn't walked more than 5K in one day since 19, 18, something like that. And so I was just thinking it'd be nice to go out, and if I did a 50K, then I could say I did an ultra again. That was mine. That's what I told all my medical people, my podiatrist and GP and, everyone else, rheumatologist and everyone. And that's really what I had. But it's funny, your mindset, 2 hours in, I'm like, man, I know I'm like, a slug compared to what I was before, but the mind is still there. And I need a goal and I want to buckle. I couldn't believe it. I was like, and I was having these conversations like, that's really stupid. Oh, but it's a buckle. And then my person I kind of coached, Ken Michaels, 4 hours in. So I'm kind of keeping it together in my head. Like, I'm not going to tell anyone because that would be stupid. And part of this course is in the dirt. And Ken Michaels puts on Facebook this like stuff. Like, I know my coach, she's going for the buckle, and these people in the race are coming and go, I hear you going for the buckle. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, are they reading my mind? Like, what? And then they said, Ken just put on Facebook. And I'm like, at first I was like mad for like 5 minutes. I was like really pouty. I was like, damn it, I just wanted to come here. And then I thought, I just couldn't stop laughing. I was just like, I would have done the same thing to him. Got me. Now I just have to embrace it and do it. And I was doing all this math, and it was going to get bad weather, and you wouldn't believe all this stuff. And I'm like, but I still want to change costumes, like change something every lap and stop at this thing. I wonder if I can do it the way I want to do it. Oh, maybe that'll make it possible. So this whole like scenario is just like going through my head and getting excited because everyone's going for their dreams and we're just starting out. And it was like magical. It was like, wow, man, I can still enjoy this. And they're still having me, and they're still letting me do it with a walker. What? That's nice of them.
Are you negotiating all these things in your head while you're moving along, right? That's what's
Yeah.
happening?
Mhm. Yeah, that was
Oh my
what's
gosh.
happening. It was quite fun. And then I was meeting these little kids because I had this little turtle that I'd only bring out at night with the lights on because it was a children's nightlight. It's kind of cute. And I just put it on the turtle at night on the walker because turtle comes out at night. And then on the back end, on the back 40, there were all these little marble-sized rocks. And anytime the turtle went up and down, it changed like a lot of colors. I'm like, wow, I should call this the LSD section. I'm like, this is just weird. And then this kid next to me really likes a turtle. And I'm like, okay, if I get 100 miles, you can have my turtle. And I gave her the turtle.
How many miles were you in when you said that? You remember?
I can't remember. I know her mom was struggling
Oh
a
my,
little bit. She was developing shin splints and she was just such a doll. And I knew she was just running and really running kind of hard and just, and then she's all going to do Coke and Donuts or Coca-Dona, whatever it's called. And she's like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. And she did kind of disappear. They did come back, even though she stopped to get the turtle. I'm not kidding. It was so cute. Those are the things that I remember from
oh,
UTY, not running 100 miles. It's like this little kid getting so excited about something you can get on Amazon for like $13.
yeah, but it's
Hope that's
priceless
not
when
bad
it's,
saying
when
that.
it's part of a thing. Come on.
Oh, it was so
When
great.
you logistically, how many did you, I don't remember, did you stop? How were your stops? Like 112 miles is a long time. Did you sleep? Did you go to a hotel? I don't remember those pieces. Like, how did you actually do this 112 miles that started out as a 50K or whatever?
Well,
How did you do?
I was
Did
going
you
to
rest?
stay, yeah, I was going to stay in a hotel at least 2 or 3 times, like every other night, something for but then well, the first night there was a lot of wind, no one slept. But the second night I did go to a hotel, but it was so exhausting taking Uber and everything. I mean, the best part of getting there was I take Uber from Phoenix Airport. It's kind of a long drive. It's not cheap to get there, but I'm going straight to the site. And this guy's like, maybe English isn't his first language, a nice guy. And he keeps asking me what I'm doing. And I'm in the back seat, which I don't like being there. But anyway, I guess that's how you do Uber. And he keeps looking in the rearview mirror and asking, he goes, I don't understand. Kept saying that. And then he gets me to this, it's a, what is, training center. Well, it's where ball is played for the Mariners and the Padres, out there, wherever this thing is called. And
Yeah,
it's
the
like he's
sports
just
center
there.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are people with RVs lining up and just people running around. And then there were shopping carts. And I'm like, he goes, where do you want to be left off? I don't want to leave you anywhere. And I'm like, oh, anywhere's fine. And then he goes, do you know these people? I'm like, and then these people go, hey, Ann. He goes, do you know that person? I go, no, but it's okay. And he's like, And he's just like totally freaking out. So he stops and they say, "Hey, Mr. Uberman, can you put her bags in the grocery cart?" And he's looking, goes, "I don't think so, ma'am. I think we should leave." And I said, "Oh, please just put them to what they're saying." And he threw him in there and he whooped out of there at like 60 miles an hour. I mean, he was totally freaked out. I'm not doing it justice, but the next day I was like, a couple days later, people who were there, we were just, I mean, of course, as the days go longer, it seemed funnier and funnier. By day 6, you know, a whole laugh of laughter. But I mean, he was just petrified. It's like, yeah, here's this old woman with a lot walker who's going to go walk for 6 days in the middle of nowhere where they train baseball. You know, there's baseball playing in the spring training here.
Right. He was so confused. Oh, man. But you're right. Here we are, you know, a year later, whatever. It's a lot. Now it's just a good, funny story. But in that moment, I bet you're like, he's looking back. He's like, I can't let you out. I don't know what you're doing. I don't understand. I can.
Well, I was confused too because I didn't know the carts were for, and the tents were like a quarter mile from where you dropped off. So people really did put my thing. They're like, because I'm with the walker and I'm looking at the cart, and they're like, "Oh, I'll help you." And I'm like, "I don't know this person, but thank you very much." And then I'm like, "Where are your tents?" They go, "Well, they have to check all of them, but oh, here's yours." And I'm like, "Wow, thank you so much." I mean, there was no like someone checking off people like, you know, you're down aisle E on 125 or anything. It was like you just had to look for all the things. It was hysterical. But oh my God, the tent was wonderful because you'd stand in it and you could stop every lap.
Wait, so you slept in? You were?
I slept there, yeah, most nights.
I see.
They have a cot. Okay. I rented a cot and a tent, and I brought my own sleeping bag. That's what I brought, and a bunch of, you know, little costume changes and whatever, lights, and 2 bags worth of, I don't know, paraphernalia. It was a pain to put it back. I'll have to tell you that. I was so organized because I had that afternoon. Day 1, it just looked like a hurricane, and I'm walking by everyone else's tent because I'm feeling like really messy, and I'm like, wow, everyone else's tent has exploded. That's great. Oh my God.
Felt right at home eventually.
Oh yeah, we were all, I mean, you go through a lot of the same things, even if you're super fast and you have crew or whatever, but it was just fun to be back with people that I care about or have known and just get in that headspace. I mean, that was just marvelous, which I feel embarrassed about because here we're talking about women can do over 600 miles now in 6 days, and I barely get over 100, and I'm like acting like, I don't know what I'm acting. I'm happy. I'd like to do better next year, that's for sure. I don't know if I will, but it'll be good to do better.
I don't know about better. I think you nailed it. It's going to be hard for someone else to have a similar profile and get more excitement. I was wondering,
I'm not doing it that way.
Did you have to do maintenance?
I want to do more than 113 miles or 12 miles next year. That's what I'd like to do.
I know. We're going to get to that in just we're going to get to that. Going to get to that in a minute, Ms. Trason. Here's the thing. Wait, I also thought, I'm like, wait, do you have to do maintenance? A walker is not designed to walk 100 miles. A walker is, I don't know, you go a little bit, you go to the store. So as I watch you go run around, when I saw that thing, I'm like, well, I wonder if she has she literally, Ann Trason, the only person running the race who literally has to do an actual pit stop. Because I'm thinking, well, like, do you do anything to the tires, like the brakes? Like, is that whole little walker going to hold up? Because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, Ann's going to hold up better than that walker, but I don't know. Any maintenance on the walker, or was it good to go?
Mark, I was getting a little concerned because I didn't realize I got this thing through Amazon, and a lot of the parts are welded. As a matter of fact, I was dumb enough. I thought I'd just go to the local bike store afterwards because it's a little wobbly. And I'm like, how do you fix it? And they go, buy another one. I'm like, he says, how much do you pay for it? And I'm like, I don't know. And I said, 169. You should try Walmart. It might be cheaper. So I go on Walmart after there, and I'm like, oh, good. I can get it for $129. I'm thinking, well, I don't know how much he charges per hour. Maybe, but I kept that purple. And I did get an upgrade in walkers for trails. This Titanic or something. Anyway, it's super cool. It's like a four-wheeler, but a three-wheeler. I can't explain it. But it's one thing I really like is I live in kind of an old town for the West, not like the East Coast.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
sidewalks are horrible. And this little guy, not really that little, but is very stable and has little, I can take my kitties, which I have, for little walks. I'm going to get them their stroller, but that one is made for trails. And that one I can take to the bike store because it has disc brakes and they'll work on it. But the other one, they're just like, throw it out. Which sounds
Yeah.
like,
Okay, good. So when I looked at it, I'm like, man, that's also going to be a story. I was going to imagine you after the 112 miles and you got your belt buckle in one hand and then you pan over to the little walker and one of the wheels is broken off. Like Ann Trason survived, but that walker's dead.
I really was. I did
So the
call a
kitties,
friend.
wait.
I did call a friend and I said, I was so stupid. I should have brought tools. And he's like, I'm sure someone there. So I did ask Jamil, one of his friends, I'm like, if a wheel falls off, will you help me put it back on? Because I don't know if this thing's, because over the rocks, it was like wobbling all over the place. And I'm just like, I was a little concerned about it, to be quite honest. I have to be glad. And then I had to get on the airplane with it, and I'm like, this better handle post race, okay?
Man, well, I'm glad you got to upgrade. It's experience. Like you drove it around the track a couple of times. Okay, now you're ready for the next one. So, you mentioned kitties before. You call them kitties, but are they cats or are they little kittens? They're cats, right? You just call them kitties, right?
Well, no,
right?
I
have a cat, but we don't call them a kitty. No.
Well, they're about 3 months old. So I'd say they're virtuing,
okay.
yeah, they're kittens virtuing. Well, they were born April 4th. And they are getting to be adult teenagers, I think, in their activity level of destruction, which is so funny. They're hysterical.
Yeah. When maybe this is just me, but when our cat does cute little things, she's a little cutie. But the moment she does things that are not indicative of a little teeny kitten, oh, she's a cat, all right. You know what I mean?
I call her the devil.
Ripping up thing. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. All right. How about this? Let's shift into here. If I took my notes right from our calls, you finally hired a coach for the first time in your life after 40 years of doing all the things you do, blah, blah, blah. But it's not a running coach, but you did hire a coach. So how did that happen? What made you finally say, I'm going to hire a coach?
Well, it wasn't I had a dream, not a dream, I had kind of an epiphany when I was helping in an aid station, way too cool, that I needed to try something that I didn't know I could accomplish. And like something off my bucket list, because I will have to say I was a bucket list person before RA, and I was like, what's on the top of the bucket list? And I realized in 2005 I wanted to climb Aconcagua. I've done a little bit. I've been up to 21-2 in Peru, and I've done some of the easier. This can be a walk up if the weather's okay, but I want to climb Aconcagua. It's on my bucket list. It's in Argentina. I think it's a beautiful mountain. It's not a volcano, although it can look like a volcano to some people. A lot of titanic shifts, and it's raw. There's wind and ice and penitentiaries, these formations, and I've always just wanted to do it. So I was like, well, I'd been watching this person on YouTube, and he's like a coach for climbing. And I was like, that is a really dumb idea, Trason. I'm like, don't do that. What are you thinking about? And I'll put that in the butt. I'm going to call this Alan guy because he has free 30 minutes. He does 7 summits. He got this kid that I was watching up Everest when he was 19, Ryan Mitchell. So I'm like, this is like stupid stuff. So I call him up, and at first he's like, huh? And then he's like, I think I should Google you, which would never ask me. I didn't suggest it. And then he's like, wow, maybe. And then he's like, let me think about it. And then within a half an hour, I am not kidding, this email shows up, and it's like really flattering. And he's like sending it off to some expedition companies. And the next 2 days I'm on Zoom calls. I don't do Zoom calls. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was getting so excited. I was like, really? I was like, this is what I need to do. And it was like, I just need something. I need a journey. I need another chapter. My life isn't over. And then I broke my leg. So little speed bump, but hey, I'm back at it. And in
Wait,
6 weeks, I'm going to be back on trails.
wait. No. Slow down on that. It was like, that was too quick. And then I broke my leg. So take us back to that. So first of all, wait. Sorry. You see, you watch a YouTube of the young guy, 19-year-old climbing Everest. Amazing. You're enthralled. But you found the coach from that video, and then you reached out to the coach. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's what I was watching this guy, Ryan Mitchell, and part of his journey was just doing all the training. And he was like this guy on Twitch or whatever, he plays videos and wants to do it. And I think it's the beauty of you. It's the first time I really saw how the beauty of YouTube. I know I'm old, but I was like, man, I got invested in this guy.
Okay.
And then I started listening about his coach doing that, right? And I'm like, I start listening to his coach's podcasts, like all of them. And anytime any video would drop, I'd be there. I got so embarrassingly so when he climbed Everest, and he could only do his videos from base camp. But he goes up to camp 1, camp 2. I'm starting to really worry, like something like happened to him. I'm searching it if anyone's seen him.
Right.
But I remember Alan,
in
and
it, man. Wow.
I just thought, wow, to help someone do that. And I liked his podcast. The guy cracked me up, and I just thought, well, I'll give him a call. I mean, what harm can happen? It's free 30 minutes. And then after I talked to him a bunch and a couple times, well, he wasn't going to accept my money after I broke my leg, but somehow we got to a point. I think after I got released from skilled nursing or somewhere along the line, I just said, hey, I'm going to send you the fee, and let's get this finalized, and I'm going to do it. At least I'm going to try. And he's agreed. He's told me the other day, it was really cool. I said, is this stupid? Because I really want to know. Like, come on, I just broke my leg pretty badly. And hip, really. And he's like, I'm 98% sure that you're going to give it the best try you can, and you will be there a year from December. But will you summit?
Okay, so
I can't say you will, Ann. And I'm like, that is the best answer I could have expected or asked for, really.
Aconcagua. When are we talking about? Did you just have this call? So you're going to do it this December, but that ain't happening. So is what you just revealed to us is for next December?
Yeah, because I need time to train and get stronger. A year from December. And also, there's a person I'd like to hire as my guide, because if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do it as a group thing. It's kind of selfish and maybe a little prissy to some, but I just want to hire people who are going to just help me up. I did the snowman trek in Bhutan in 2018 with a bunch of people I didn't know, and it was fine. I loved it. It was beautiful, but it's draining sometimes, the group dynamics, especially when you're at high altitude. And if I'm going to do this, I want to have everything possible, because I'm not sure I can. And part of it is just going to have to be kind of self-centered and say, I'm going to hire a whole team to try and get me to the top.
You're doing an event. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah, you need the team to get you there. That makes total sense. Nothing would be worse than to have that decision to go team versus solo and be halfway through it.
It wouldn't be solo. It would be
solo.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but it wouldn't be solo. It could be I could go. There are groups, like REI. Well, not REI, but just say there's sometimes where they'll take like 10 clients, and then it's like 1/10 of the cost. So I approximately. So what I'm saying is, I just want a solo guide for me, and I'll need porters, which is I don't know if it's looked down upon, probably by some to get porters there, but I'm 65, I have RA. If that's what it's going to take, and it's cheating, whatever, but.
Take me back to the broken leg. Is that when the doctor at one point says that's a spicy decision to whatever your decision was? Can you take us back? That's a good story. I laughed my butt off, and I want to trying to recreate it. I don't know.
Well, what happened was I fell off my treadmill right after all this was happening, and I cracked what is known as the greater trochanter right off the fibula, which is your leg, your big leg, and it was a 4 millimeter displacement. It took a while for them to figure it out because they first told me it was a bone bruise. But when it was finally diagnosed with an MRI, this orthopedic guy, super great guy, Dr. Lickman, he was in Auburn. He came in, and I was the one convincing him. He's like, I'm going to put in. He drew me the map, my whole my upper leg, my hip, and he's like, okay, this is where the crack is. These are the spiral fractures. I had a lot of spiral fractures, which made it very painful. And then apparently, and then he goes like this is where I'm going to put the rods. And I'm like, I don't do well in the past with hardware in my body. Like, it has to be taken out. Can we take that out? And he's like, no, that's there permanently. And I'm like, I want to climb Aconcagua. Am I going to feel it going on the downhills? And he's just like, what are you talking about? I'm like this little old lady in a hospital bed. So I basically said, well, I have surgery, and I got other things to think about, because they had me signed up for surgery, because if I had said go, I'd be in the OR like in 5 minutes. So I'm like really battling like this, like, this force of putting rods in my legs. So he disappears, and he comes back at 4 that afternoon. This was like 10 to 4, so quite a few hours. And to add to the story,
Yeah,
I was bored, so I had a plunger hat on my head, and I had forgot it because I was just like flipping channels and going, am I having surgery? I'm not. What's going on here? They're not giving me water, like food. And he comes in, and he's like, on further reflection, and he goes, he's really nice, and like, but afterwards, so when the spiciness, so he finally agrees that, it might be painful, but I'd have to go into skilled nursing for 5 weeks, and I'd hate it. So I lasted a week, and I did hate it. But anyway, when I went back just recently, after my x-ray showed like a good amount of healing, like more than I ever expected, my friend was just badgering him with questions like, how hard was that decision? And he just looks at me and goes, it was very spicy. And I was like, well, so when I just asked him too, because I had that plunger hat on, right? And so I'm like feeling it in 15 minutes. And now he's talking about Western States. He's going to be there. He knows friends of mine. I'm like, if I take it off, it acknowledges how stupid I am. So I never took it off. So then I see him at the appointment, and he's like telling me spicy decisions. And I'm like, well, if you were thinking that, what hat was I wearing? He just goes, a plunger hat. You forgot? I was like, oh my God. I'm making decisions on my leg, like profound implications. I'm like, wow, I'm a wackadoodle. What? Sorry. Maybe I think better that way. Maybe it gets me in the now moment. I don't know.
The idea that you're sitting there with the plunger hat, and he's telling you here's what the situation is. And I don't know if your face looked at him very seriously, but it would be impossible for an objective third party to be watching you have that conversation with him.
He didn't even look. He didn't even look at the hat. He never mentioned it. He walks out. I throw it off, and I'm like, wow, that was really embarrassing. I don't think I'm going to tell anyone that. And fast forward now, I'm like, that was hysterical. Plus, he did notice, so that got him some bonus points.
Yeah.
But, and he still wanted to be my patient. I did ask him that during that conversation if he still wanted to be my patient, because maybe it's not good for his statistics.
Exactly.
But he I think he knows what. I mean, he deals with really super cool athletes. He's the team doctor for the U.S. women's national team. So I didn't know that. I just found that out recently, but he's a pretty cool guy. And he also volunteers at Western States at Mile 55. So gives his time back to the community. That's pretty cool.
Very good. Very cool. So let's talk about that. So were you at Michigan Bluff this year at Western States? Did you visit there? That's the
Yeah, I
where
have
were you?
friends that have the on the corner that there's an aid station. So I went there and saw a bunch of old friends and hung out, and then I live on the I live on the course. And so about, I live about a little over, probably about a mile from the finish. And so I hung out in front of my house, and we have a mile 99 party. I'm really proud of our neighbors. I could not believe how much the people in this neighborhood give back to the sport just because they're not runners. One guy made 109 signs, and they all had their name, their number, and where they were from. And he put them all up with shepherd
Yeah.
hooks, and it was incredible.
I,
I
I
mean,
saw that you posted that, you shared that, and others did too. And that really does talk about community. That's a testament. 109 personal signs for people who are going to see it once. But if that one person sees that one sign at that one moment, at that time in the race, what an exciting, wonderful little boost of we got you, we love you, let's go. Right?
yeah, well, I mean, he did start it with locals because it's like, in some years, there are very few. We've had quite a few locals, people like you'd say in Northern California in the race. It's such a great story. So he started just doing it so within a certain mile radius of Auburn, and then added a few other people criteria. I can't remember, but he's very scientific. Dennis Denny or Denny Dennis, he has a funny name. Anyway, he realized there were only 13 women in the 50, and he's like, that's bad. I'm just going to make more signs and do more women. But he did a few men, and he got to 109 signs, and he said to me, he was sick of doing signs at that point. He had been doing them since canyons. We're talking April. So
Oh my
he added them
gosh.
up. I'm not kidding. This is like a labor of love. And he had 56 women and 53 men. And he said, that's enough. That's good. That's the way it should be. And he put only women in front of my house along where I have a long thin lot. So there were quite a few women's names in front of my house. It was a real privilege.
It was so beautiful. But until this moment, like one moment ago, did I realize, of course, he's been at it for months trying to get those done. That's a lot of signs. And they literally were hand drawn. They're like, there's no stencil here. You weren't spray painting something. These are like, wow.
Yeah, and he also
Wow.
there's a mile 99 sign, and it says "Welcome to Auburn, Western States Runners." It's part of the street, the
Yeah.
community, and it's just one house down from me. And he had flags made with that copied that, and he handed out a flag to every single runner. And he also helped. He was handing them out at the training weekend and also canyons. It's like, this guy's incredible, and but he's one of, well, I wouldn't say many, okay, but there are a lot of people here who stay up all night and cheer and put lights up, and it's wonderful. That part, with, things change, but that part really feels. When I used to do it, there was no one here, and this is a change that's really good for the community, and I'm really proud that I'm able to see it, even if I'm not running.
You know, I laughed so hard. You weren't on the phone. You were just by myself. And I laughed at this scenario. How amazing you were when you were first for so many years, and you've done so many things in the space, but the sport didn't have as big as an audience as you have now. But here's why I laughed. I was thinking, if my math is right, and nutrition, fuel, shoes, all like the gear, as the sport grows, all these things, the accoutrement of running, right? That if someone's going to start now, well, you need to know about gels, you need to know about this, you need to know about that. And then I was thinking, I did the math, and I was thinking about you and Tweetmeyer and every other legend. I'm thinking, they didn't have nothing. She ran with a water bottle, and half the time there was no water in it. Tell us a story or two about at least one Wayback Machine story where you're like, you didn't have nothing. Like but you still ran 100 miles. Tell us one of
Well,
those stories.
this is a story about my first 50 miler because I didn't know about hundreds, like I said, with my mom,
American
but
River. That's
American River
American
50.
River 50. Okay.
And so I realized I was, fish out of water. So Sally Edwards had the course record. She started the Fleet Feet, and there was a Fleet Feet store because it was a franchise out in Walnut Creek. So I went out there and said, I need some information on how to run. And they're like, the person who started does ultra. We know nothing. There was a black and white magazine, so I got that. And then there was nothing. I mean, we didn't have nothing to learn about it. So I just went and got this book on marathon training that looked pretty good, and I just doubled everything in it. It said do a 20 mile, I did a 40. When it said 6 mile, I mean, it was stupid. And I didn't carry a water bottle because I did all my runs knowing, like, oh, where the fountains were. I didn't even think, because there's an aid station every 5 to 7 miles. So when I started out in American River, I didn't start out with a fanny pack. I didn't start out with a water bottle. I just started out, and it was hot that year. It was the hottest year they ever had. It's close to 100 degrees. And luckily, someone gave me a water bottle. So, talk about the learning curve. I'll tell you something. The learning curve for the people who did it before me, way before me, and even during my time, it was huge. It was part of the fun. It was also like a roller coaster. You try one thing, it wouldn't work. But he gave me a water bottle, and honestly, I wouldn't have finished without. And he was eating dates, so I threw up dates. They're too sweet. And we had something called erg, and I tutted that out. That got spit out. I'm like, what is this? They're like basically sweat. So it was basically water and orange slices. So
Yeah.
and then when I finished, it was so horrible. I just said, I ain't doing none of that. I was not kidding when I called my mom, and I did a couple marathons and did okay. And my dad was all happy. He's like, "Oh yeah, you get back in the marathoning and blah blah blah, and go get your PhD while you're at it." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." But yeah, I was like, I was, I mean, there wasn't any strap or anything. You just carried it.
When you watch people running it now, all these decades later, and you see the aid station, it really is like a pit stop because they go in and they swap out their pack and they got 10 bottles around them and they're sucking down the goos or the gels, whatever they're using. What are you thinking about it when you watch that happen?
Well, I
Anything?
think they think that we were dumb idiots because what I did in the day was we didn't have ice on the course, right? We didn't even have good colas. We had,
Right.
like this Japanese soda that Norm Klein would get that was basically not tolerable and like not even drinkable. So then you could use Playmates with water bottles and ice as your drop. So I would come in, throw out my other bottles, pick up new bottles. I always exchanged bottles. I always told my crew if I wasn't out there in a minute, kick me out. And there was someone timing it. I mean, things haven't changed that much. You can only reinvent the wheel. Sure, you can get better shoes. Sure, you can get better nutrition. And there's a lot more scientific evidence. But, these nutrition timers, what do you think? We didn't know how to use Timex and we couldn't have them blink every 30 minutes? Come on. It kind of cracks me up. It's just like, okay, I am old and slow, but can you give me a little bit of credit once in a while? Like, okay, we weren't all running with Ansheimer water bottles with rope on them. My friend Carol Hewitt then started a business where she did handles. And then we had fanny packs. It's just the evolution, but I think it's pretty funny.
It was refreshing. Just looking at you and listen to your laughter about it, because first you got to smile. It's supposed to be fun. It's all got to be fun. But I heard you talking to AJW on his Crack and Brew podcast, and something, I heard it differently first time. And I'm like, I thought of it myself. I'm new to the sport, but I've been running for a long time. But anyway, I just love all of it. But I think I also get a little bit, I like all this stuff. I like the gear. I like the shoes and the stuff. It makes me, just for any sport, anything I've ever done, I'm the guy who goes, I get all the stuff and I like it. It's part of the thing. But after I heard you, I'm like, I got to get out. I'm going to just go run my 8 miles. It wasn't long. It was 8 miles. It was 8 miles. It was 8 miles. But I just I just went out and ran. I'm like, wait a minute. I wanted to kind of get back to the basics, right? So I heard Ann Trason in my voice, like laughing, like what do we need all this stuff for? Just go, just run. So thank you for that.
Well,
I
you
felt
couldn't
like I
run.
was
I
running
mean,
with Ann Trason.
honestly, there are a lot of great things you can do with vests, and wish I had thought, because I did try running with a backpack and putting water in it, but man, you'd get all bruised and you chafed, and yeah, that ain't gonna work. But yeah, I mean, adventure runs, like I would do a lot of runs in the Sierras. I'm not, even if I was doing it now, I'd never be one of these FKT. It's just not my style thing. I just like to go out and explore, and
Yeah.
I would do a lot of exploring in the Sierras in the summer, or in Montana or Idaho, somewhere in the West. It was awesome. But the thing that held us back the most was not having enough fluids. And now you can carry all the stuff. I mean, you can, put in enough calories, enough peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or whatever to get you through any kind
Yeah.
of long. I think the longest training run not training run, adventure run I did was 65 miles. So, in the Sierras. But, it you have to really plan your runs because you have to make sure you're going to get enough water. And it really does. It did affect what routes we would take. And so now I'd be like, wow, I wonder what routes I would have taken, you know. But anyway, it's just, it's kind of fun to see it all. I mean, who'd want to be stagnant? That would be boring. Plus, I buy a lot of that stuff too. I mean, just bought a new, like, bandana thing, I don't know, called East Peak. I was not crewing, I was volunteering at something called Cool Moon. It's one of these old school ultras. A couple weeks before states, it was
Okay.
so fun. Stayed up all night, and I was like noticing, even because you're not going to get any of these like whatever pro elite runners there. Although there were people really
Right.
giving it everything they had, and they all had this like East Peak bandana thing, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, maybe I could use that at ARFTA. Which I'm doing. I'm like, oh yeah, like I need a $40 bandana, but I bought one. So I mean, I'm not
You
adverse
did.
to technology. Are you kidding?
Wait, did you
It's gonna
try
be
it?
hot out
Did it
there.
work? Did you
I
like it?
haven't tried it yet. It's just sitting there, and but
Okay.
there are a lot of things that arm sleeves and there's a lot of good stuff.
Oh, arm sleeves, right. So
Yeah.
I got some kind of deal somehow. I bought an arm sleeve, haven't used it yet, but just a couple of days ago, someone burned themselves on the oven pulling out a, I don't know, pie or something. And like got an arm burn. Got an arm burn, and I was like, hey, I know what you need. So they had a ice wrap on their arm, right? So I ran into the thing, and I pulled out my arm sleeve, and I was able to put it on, or put it up on the arm sleeve and wrap the ice around the thing. And you're like, oh, this works great. I'm like, yeah, right. There's a tool for everything. Now, I don't remember why I
You're
got that arm
breaking up.
sleeve. I don't remember. Yeah, but boy, did it come in handy. It came in handy. That's for sure. That's for sure. You said, I don't want to forget about this one, because it just sounds so fun, but I didn't know anything about what it was. You sent me this Chrissy Kelly post. Do you know anything about that? The Crazy Ladies Running Club? I didn't want to assume it was you, but I thought it was funny. What's the Crazy Ladies Running Club? And do you
Oh,
know
maybe I
anything about it?
should maybe put what it is. Um, it's something I just started with these 300 really wonderful women in late 20s, early 30s that I met who saved my ass when I was stuck in a river not a river, a little creek, was trying to push one of my walkers on a trail I shouldn't have been on. And these three women
wait.
showed up.
The walker got stuck in the thing.
And I was really thinking I was
Sorry.
going to have to spend the night out on the Olmsted Loop at Cool. I mean, I'm serious. I was like, man, I've done that before.
Oh my
It should be
God.
pretty warm.
Sorry.
But my phone was dying. I also didn't want to like tell them. It's like kind of embarrassing. But they show up and they get me out of the creek, and then they're like, okay, and they start running away. And I'm like, please help me. And they got me all the way to the off the trail section, which was more undulating than. See, I didn't think when I went out on that trail, I didn't think what would happen if, there's a downed tree. which was, so I just decided to try and shortcut, which got me stuck in the creek. So these wonderful women, so they helped me out, and I have to get them a ride because it's a run group, Pointed Rocks, where this run group ends. So most of them are gone, but my friends are there, so I'm like, couple friends, I'm like, can you give these wonderful ladies, ride back to their car? So they don't have to run in the dark with their flashlight. We could only use our phones because none of us had flashlights. It was so gross. It was just I should have had more than one flashlight. Oh my God, it was so funny. So I'm buying them dinner and I'm like, hey, this is like someone comes up and says, well, how are you ladies? What is this, a group or something? I said, it's a Crazy Ladies Running Group Club. And that started a WhatsApp, and then I got t-shirts made, and I'm adding members, as it goes along. And I was at this PT and this wonderful, you could just tell in this, her focus, Chrissy, you could, said she had an ACL, and I have had that. And we're talking about hamstrings versus cadavers and this and that, but sheer focus on everything what she was doing. And she starts telling me about how excited she is about the team and blah, blah, blah. And she says, you want me to text you, her schedule? And I'm like, absolutely. And the only thing I could offer was like, hey, you want to be part of our Crazy Ladies Running Club? I guess that's how I roll. So she is our youngest member, I think, and I am going to go to as many games because I used to go with someone who had season tickets to women's basketball at Cal because I live near there for years, and I've been looking for a couple teams to follow. So this is going to be cool because I'm vested now. I want to see her do well. I want to see her get over ACL.
So glad.
I want her. Yeah, and I want to see her go to whatever, when I asked her where she wanted to go to college, because this will be her third year, because she was redshirted, she just says, I just want to play ball. And I was like, man, that's awesome. It put chills through me. It was so great.
Wow.
I don't know. What inspires you, Mark? I mean, that's what inspires me.
I hear stories that I don't expect. I think that's when I get surprised by something, and I just love it, and I dive in hard. I'm an extremist, so when I see something I love, I'm like, or I like even, I just like, boom, I'm all the way in, and for some period of time. And I thank you for asking. I'm grateful that I love cheering people on. I mean, I love to run. I love to do the things myself for sure, but I feel I really enjoy finding people who, I don't know. I feel everybody, it's one thing to be a runner. It's another thing to cheer people on. And I think we could all use a little of that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all.
What did you want to accomplish when you first started your podcast? Were you trying to see what your future would look like? Or were you thinking like you just wanted to hear from people your own age? Or did you want to learn about people or learn about yourself? I mean, what was the purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I've been, people in my life and clients and friends have been telling me you got to start this pod from 2013 about people been like, why don't you have a podcast? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Anyway, finally came along to doing it. But honestly, the first thing was Stephanie Irving. Stephanie Irving was, there were 3 people who finished Cocodona 2025 last year. So very recently, last year, 14 people in the age group of 60 to 69 start Cocodona, and only 3 people finish, 1 woman. And when I saw that stat, I'm like, and she's in her 60s, and I thought, just a year before then or so, I had turned 60, and in a way, thought I did all I needed to do. I did everything, and I'd run ultras, and but I'd never run a 50 miler, never run a 100 miler. And when I saw that statistic, and I was trying to calculate, wait, this Stephanie Irving, she's in her 60s. Yeah, she runs trails and she's been running a lot, but 250 miles. And I kind of I asked myself, and I'm like, Mark, what are you doing? Like, come on, what are you doing? And I'm never see myself as old or anything like that. I move all over the place, but I worked at an aid station at the Leona Divide, and a guy comes past this is near about the same time. And a guy in April, Cocodona's in May. So in April, I'm working an aid station. A guy comes through at the 92 mile mark, and said, "Hey man, you want a quesadilla?" He's like, "No, I'm good, man." And he looked at him and I was like, "How old are you, man?" He's like, 64. I said, "What are you doing? The 100?" He said, "I'm doing the 100. Okay, got to go. You want a quesadilla?" "No, man, I got to go." Boom. And so in that second, I asked myself out loud existentially, and I'm like, "Mark, what are you doing, man? He's just running 100 miles. Don't just be at the aid station. Get out there, go do it." So that changed in my head. I'm like, I am not done yet. And then when I saw Stephanie finish and Paul James Johnson and Kevin Flieger, of the three people who finished that year in that age group, I thought, wow, there's plenty of stories. Then I go up on the ultra sign up, Ann, and I look at this 60 to 69 year category and all these big races. I'm like, oh my goodness, we are legion. Those over 60 are legion. They're not all the Ann Trasons. They're not 14-time Western States winners. They're not record holders. These are just regular people in their 60s doing hard freaking things. And I wanted to know who they were, and I wanted to tell their stories. And not because I had a story of my own, but I just wanted to tell their stories. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to get them up here and start. So that was a long answer, but that's what really started the podcast. And now,
well, 5% of the people who finish Western States were 60 and over, which I think is kind of impressive. But I think there were 16 or 15 people over 60 out of 370, I believe, that finished. And hard walk it's hard to find out. I guess I could add going through the results, or who's listed running right now. I don't know how many people are over 60 doing hard rock, but that's a pretty good statistic. I mean, it was cooler year and stuff, but still, that's something to celebrate. I don't know. I mean,
well,
I don't want you to think,
got my.
I don't want people to think that now and it doesn't really matter what people think, to be quite honest, but I always had some sort of empathy, because my first mentor, one of my big mentors, Dick Collins, was always older than me, and I looked up to him, and always showed me the importance through him of just being able to allow people to finish. And when I took over his race after he died, Dick Collins, I was out there for Barbara Ely. She took like 16 hours or something to finish the 50-miler, and I just kept aid stations open. I relieved one of the aid station captains. With 10 miles to go, there was an aid station, and it was a cutoff, and I knew that person would cut her. And I'm like, so I just went out there and I left the finish and I just waited till she was there and then went back. And I realized the importance of it. And now it's always been there. It's not like something that just because now I'm 60, I have empathy for it. I think that goes back to the community. When I ran, there were two people who were over 50 and over 60, Roger Daniels and Gard Leighton. And they were on the track once. I mean, these guys were best friends, but what's the starting line? I mean, I was in El Dorado once at States, and I'm sure he was over 60 then. And Roger just come through, and Gard comes up, and I'm just filling my bottle or something. They don't know drops there, so I have to fill my bottle. And Gard's like, how does Roger look? And everyone's like, Gard, he looks pretty good. He goes, not for long. And he just took off. And I was like, wow, man, now okay, I maybe don't ever want to be like that, but that's pretty cool. And those were the kind of people I ran with.
Love it.
Those were my people. Those were the people who took me under the wing and I ran with when I first started running. And of course, it makes you who you are. I would hope so, because I really, really looked up to these people. I mean, like, seriously.
I'm going to hit you up with some lists and some names and ask you for even more, because you're right. Because I started while Stephanie Irving and Paul James Johnson and Kevin Flieger were the first people on my list. When I looked, once I started talking with them, every person I've talked to brought me other names. And I have a spreadsheet up now. There's 13 people who are in their 60s right now running hard rock, 13 in that age group. Two of them, Ann Onina, was the DFL last year. She's in her 60s. I got to speak with her early on in the podcast. And Cliff Matthews, he's just a beast. He's run all kinds of races. This is also his second run around the loop. And so I think, and every time I speak with someone, everybody knows people. And most of the people are like, oh, I love this guy. You got to go talk to Joe Smith. You got to go, or Mike Smith. You got to go talk to, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how it's grown. And so in some ways, Ann, I feel humbled and grateful to embrace the idea that the community is not that big. It's a big community, but in the grand scheme of the things in the world, it's small. And it's not hard to really hear everyone's name. Everyone, not just people on the podium, but everyone. And I'm really excited about that because I feel, I got plenty of years to go and I'm towing the line, but even these very conversations are just magic sometimes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd like to think if I had a shirt that I was going to wear around Western states, it would say I'm here for the back of the Packers. But I guess that would be kind of divisive too. But no, I think everyone. I always looked at it: the starting line and the finish line. They don't care what your pedigree is or how fast you are, how slow you are. And the route is giving it its challenges to everyone, maybe in a different way. Some people might be in better shape or other shape. But I always just looked at the course as someone who talked to you, and if you had to listen to it to do the best you could do, and it talked to everyone equally. That's how I felt. I didn't think it singled out people. I've never felt that way.
Well, I think that makes sense. You don't single out people, but at the same time, like use a lot of unicorn emojis. Hell, I started using unicorn emojis ever since I started trying to track down you. So, but are you a unicorn?
I
Are you
I
a
don't know, but
unicorn?
I
What do
believe
you
in
think?
unicorn. I might not. I don't think I'm a unicorn, but I certainly believe in unicorns. I think there's magic in this world, and I want to just reach for it one way or another. I'm not magical, but I believe in magic. And to me, unicorn symbolizes magic. I think when I
Drop the
end something
microphone.
and I say that, it's like I'm saying with all I put in this text or whatever, still believe in magic.
Oh
Still reach for
man,
that
that's
rainbow.
a sentiment that'll last a long time. And what do if you come across somebody who's 62 or 63 or 64 and they think that their best days are behind them and somehow that comes out in the open in the conversation, what do you tell them? What do you say?
I just say, of course, if you're gonna, it depends on your criteria. I mean, those chapters are long gone for me. Those are closed. That kind of part of my life, but it doesn't mean I can't open another chapter and find something else that's just as stimulating, exciting, something to look forward to. Work just as hard. Maybe can't work just as hard because I'm all elderly, but you can still have that passion. I guess that's what my biggest fear in life is losing passion for something, because that's what gets me up in the morning. And I'd say you can still have passion, you can still have dreams. Don't sell yourself short
You
on
think
that.
of going up that
Just
mountain with
have to
one
accept,
trekking pole in your hand?
well, that ain't gonna happen. Two would be good. But I am told that I might at some point, if the winds are really high, I'm tied into two porters at one time so I don't fly off the mountain. We're talking there, it's recorded up to
Okay.
100-mile-an-hour winds and -30. So, hey,
Can we follow your
maybe I'll be a
training
kite.
journey? I wish someone's got to get a drone on Ann Trason. We need a drone on Ann Trason all the time in her training
That'd
to
be
get
so
up
boring.
to
This kind
Aconcagua.
of
That's what
training
I think
is,
we need to see.
I don't know about that, but it is kind of fascinating the the things that you come across. Like my hands do have, I go see occupational therapist, and she's like, also always just like saying to me, this isn't going to make it better, because she's worried because my former self was an athlete that I always want improvement. She goes, we're just preventing it from getting worse. And I'm like, I know, and I'm grateful that you're helping me with that. But it is, and then when you leave, I have to say, I was walking home with my walker, and it was 100 million degrees out here. Not like Western States today. It was like sweating profusely. And I was like, wow, man, that's a little hard to hear if you really let it sink in and the implications of that, but you got to find something positive in it. It's not cliche. I have to think positively because there's just so many obstacles. That and I guess an obstacle is in what's in your mind. They're not obstacles. There's just something that came up in the path, and I have to deal with it. And one of the things I told this coach guy, that Alan Honett that I hired, I thought it was really endearing. We were talking about what if Aconcagua doesn't want or this expedition. I said, there's a will, there's a way. I am going to figure out a way to make this work. And he said, that's the kind of mindset I liked working with. And I was like, doesn't everyone have that mindset? I don't know, but that's how I am. I'm like, I'm sure, I can't say that about everything. I'll never run again, but I want to feel that I can still be there. I want to prove to myself I can still be there.
Right. That's the only reason I ran in the first place after 2 strokes. I'm like, well, I just got to do it. I just want to do it. I got to suggest, can I prove do I do it? And I did it. I cried my eyes out. Nobody was there to witness. It was just me at the end of the finish line in New York City in the Central Park. And I finished and I was so grateful and cried my eyes out. But then that was that. That was that. Okay. Did it. Done. Now what? Now the one thing I get to do is surround myself in a way, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like if people aren't positive, if people aren't, just determined to just have the best kind of day and just keep at it. And that's infectious and that's positive and it's, you can grow that way. I just love it. And so if I do find myself when someone presents themselves with a little bit of negativity, I don't say anything about it, but I definitely kind of have some avoidance techniques, like, okay, let them be their way, but I don't have to change them. But that energy is not good for me, right? There's enough people in the world who need some positive juice and they got some, and that's what I'm attracted to.
Well, a friend of mine recommended a book. I think it's Let Them Be. I think that's the title. Anyway, I've been listening to a little bit on audio. And yeah, a lot of things you just have to let people be the way they are. You're not going to, and I wouldn't want to change people. I mean, we want diversity in people's thinking, and I think that's the beauty of the world. But the other thing is when you see something, it's like you could look at it different ways. And I'm trying to take what obstacles or whatever happens, like even in a store at CVS, having a frustration with not getting my prescriptions, trying to figure out a positive, what came out of this thing that's frustrating you? What came out positive? Let's just think about that. And I'm trying to be a better person that way because I can go down the rabbit hole like anyone else. And I guess when I'm getting to maybe the end of my life, I'd like to think I can live another decade, but who knows with RA, that I still want to strive to be a better person. I believe in karma. I believe in giving forward. So I'm hoping that I can still live with those beliefs for the next whatever years I have left.
Well, clearly you're making purchase decisions that support that type of an endeavor. For example, buying an upgraded walker with handbrakes and something you can take to the bike store to fix, right? That's smart. That's good. You're equipping yourself with the tools you need to do just that, to keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So, and you're amazing. I'm so grateful that you spent time with me, with us today. And I hope we covered things I hadn't heard before from you. And I think we did. I love that. I hope I get a chance to see you somewhere, whether it's across the years or, by God, if I'm going to have to learn more about Aconcagua just so I can keep up with you, I'm happy to do that too.
Well, we do have a multi-day out here in the 3rd week in September in Auburn called Mile Madness. But I do hope I run into you again because I have a lot of questions for you just on how you've looked at aging and what inspires you. And I mean, we touched a little bit on that while you did the podcast, which I think is really cool because there are a lot of lost stories. I worry about that. A lot of people's stories get lost. And I always say, if you live long enough, you're going to have great stories. So it's cool that you're documenting them for the future. I appreciate it. So thank you, Mark.
So happy to have you here. And you're exactly right. You told me a couple of stories. I thought, no, but nobody's going to hear that story. So thank you for sharing a couple of those. And I am forever going to be remembering my next doctor's appointment. I'm going to ask him, well, is there anything spicy we can talk about? That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, no. I hope he doesn't
Uh,
hear this. My orthopedic guy.
uh,
One of
all
my
right,
biggest
and
worries is, that I'll get fired by my doctors. So I'm like, don't fire me.
yeah, yeah. Don't drop your pacers, and don't let your doctors drop you. Yeah, that's right. Those are the two rules we should have. You're
Well, it was a
awesome,
pleasure
and all
talking
right,
to you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
pleasure talking to you too. All right, we'll see you the next time. Thank you.
All right, bye.